Georgie.
Before we even begin, I already have a rant. Like, Pennywise is always laughing through the majority of the thing until he becomes the dancing clown. You know what scene I'm talking about? There's a scene where he's actually like, where like, they have like the old-timey like circus cabooses that drop down and he starts dancing and he's just perpetually angry about it. Oh, you haven't, no. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And that's like, dude, you're dancing, you're happy. Really? Well, there's your GIF. From the most popular cliques to the biggest loser clubs, we all fear something. It could be something specific like red balloons or something very general like the sight of blood. But that fear turns into something so big that life itself is consumed by it, that fear will become a phobia. So what turns fear into a phobia? That's a difficult question to answer, but the one being that definitely knows is the killer clown from outer space, Pennywise. Before we delve into the dark layers of fears that explains phobias, let's first make sure we all know the clown who uses our fear against us and talk about Pennywise and the It franchise. As there is some differences between the adaptations, we'll stick mostly to the new movies using the miniseries and the books to close any gaps that are needed. Sorry. Now is also a good time. Damn it. I got him. I'm not sure if this is showing up on camera, but every time I'm talking, there's a mosquito that goes meow and just hangs out right here. Now is also a good time to give those who have a fear of spoilers a heads up. Since we'll also be talking about the books, not only will there be spoilers for the miniseries and the 2017 movie, but there will most likely be a spoiler for It 2 that will be out shortly after the making of this episode. Deep in the recesses of the void that surrounds our universe came a creature that found its way to Earth, creating a cataclysmic event on a scale that rivals the asteroids that made the dinosaurs extinct. That being landed in North America that would eventually be known as Derry, Maine. The creature, now called Pennywise, emerges every 27 to 30 years to feed on the residents of Derry for about a year before going back into hibernation. Pennywise also needs his prey to be afraid before he can feed on them. Pennywise's meal of choice? Children. Haha! Pennywise has many powers and abilities to make a good case on the fear of clowns, just to be a smart thing. The most obvious is shapeshifting as a clown. That's not his true form, because he also likes to transform into his prey's worst fears. That is not the only tool in its arsenal, as minor omnipotence, the ability to control minds and create illusions, telepathy, and the ability to teleport anywhere in Derry is also in its supernatural toolbox. Luckily, Pennywise cannot move outside the borders of Derry. Derry is it, and it is Derry. He does have more powers, but you get... God damn you. It's the same one. He does have more powers, but you get the general idea. He is a force to be reckoned with and can either tear you limb from limb or get into your mind and make you wish you were dead. There's a lot more to the It franchise, but we really don't need to go into deadlights or what the ritual of chewed is, other than I like to say the word chewed. Let's just say that a lot of stuff may or may not be in the new It movie, because it is part of the books, but things get weird. Like, really weird. There's a giant turtle involved. So Pennywise does need his victims to feel fear to feed on them. But what if he took that time to feed on a person's phobia instead? I think it'd be easy for Pennywise to do, but would the investment really be worth it to cultivate that level of fear in his victims and turn them into a phobia? Or would it take too much time? Let's go ahead and talk about phobias and how Pennywise can turn a meal of fear into a phobia buffet. So let's start with the basics. Fear is the backbone of phobia, so let's really understand fear and how fear is defined in psychology. We need to know what fear is so we can understand phobias. You could say understanding fear, it's important. Fear is the physiological and psychological response to perceived physical and emotional danger. In other words, if something can hurt your body, mind, or emotions, fear may occur. Fear is a very rational and normal thing. A stranger offering popcorn and hot dogs from the sewers could invoke a level of fear, and it kind of should. Georgie? Would you agree? Yes, I would. Thank you, Georgie. Damn it. It crawled in my ear. 1 second. Ah! Spoiler, we're doing this with a lot of mosquitoes around.
It's still recording.
Oh, hi. What the? Being afraid of the rejection of the redhead that you want to date can hurt us in the feelings, so we may fear the rejection as well. Back in the day, fear at first was used to trigger quick responses in life and death situations. We do actually feel this fear in the forms of sweating, increased heart rate, and dramatic jumps in adrenaline levels. It triggers that fight or flight mentality that we decide in less than a moment if we need to run away screaming from something or try to tear it apart as it's threatening us. Side note, most of us talk about fight-flight response, but it's really actually called the fight-flight-freeze response. When your brain has concluded that you can't fight it, You can't run from it, you literally freeze in place. A good example of this is when Georgie's arm was caught by Pennywise, he remained still in a single moment. It was only after his arm was ripped off did he try to actually escape. That is a good example of freeze to flight response. That could be due to the fact that Georgie's brain was trying to preserve the arm by not having it pulled away, knowing that if he did pull it away, it'd probably be ripped off. Of course, the arm was lost and there was no hopes of preserving it after Pennywise really sunk his teeth in, so he tried to flee. Emphasis on the tried to flee. The responses are assessed way too quick for any logic to take over. The brain is running on instinct at this point. The brain is a tricky thing. Many of us can think about the things we fear, and we can think about them with a certain level-headedness. Is level-headedness a word? Level is. Headedness? No, it is. I just made it up. I can do that. However, when the heart is racing and the adrenaline is pumping, the level-headed thinking is just not possible. Instinct takes over and your brain will not let you think on that level of clarity. In short, if Pennywise uses your fears against you, how you think right now will not be the same way how you think in the moment. Analyzing just takes too long in a situation that requires immediate action, so your brain reacts first and will think about what's going on later. That's part of fear. Damn it. Ah! Okay, I'm good. Now I have a fear of things crawling in my ear. That's how quick it works. Take that, fucker. Fear can also be fun too. When we know that fear isn't life-threatening or emotionally damaging.
Did you grab one as you were going off?
Shit. Fear can be fun too, Zot. When we know what's confronting us and is making us fearful is not life-threatening or it won't cause us emotional damage, that fear can create adrenaline bursts and warm fuzzy feelings that can be euphoric. In essence, things like watching or talking about horror movies, wink, or an extreme hobby like cliff diving can give us those good feeling vibes even though technically we are afraid. Fear creeps in not just in life or death situation nowadays like it did say 1,000 years ago. Our lives have less stakes in life or death situations, so our fear levels have become more sensitive. Yes, the responses to fear can be more sensitive the less we're exposed to things that make us fearful. But we can also build almost like a fear tolerance in time. In essence, the more we are exposed to fear, the more tolerance we have to build up that specific fear. Note I said specific. One fear is not a catch-all. When Pennywise comes back, the loser club will actually be able to weather the storm much easier than, say, you or me. You or me. Not gonna let you edit that, you son of a bitch. Haha. The loser club will be able to weather the storm much easier than many of us would who haven't had a fear-inducing clown trying to eat us or even had the thought of a clown trying to eat us. Which, okay, I'm already derailing again. So, people are, like, I talked to a couple people about fear just to kind of do some research for this. And talking about it, a lot of people were actually telling me that, like, who is really afraid of clowns? And I think I was having this conversation with you, Mr. Editor. Was it called Thrifty? It was used to call Thrifties? Yeah. Okay. Have you ever seen the image of the clown on a Scoopies ice cream? You know what? Put up Scoopies.
What the hell is that?
Tell me that clown isn't creepy as fuck. And that was someone's idea to go, this is what we want our brand to be known for. The fuck? Okay. Back onto what I was saying though. I have Scoopies rolling through my head and it scares me. And I don't have a fear of clowns. So that's what actually makes Pennywise so awful. Not Scoopies, but when they're trying to build a tolerance to one fear, he can actually adjust to a new fear because he's a jerk like that. With all that said, there are a few more things on fear that is super interesting. Or at least I think they're interesting. So there's a few other things that I think are... Well, I caught it. So there's a few other things I at least think are interesting. If this stuff interests you, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and click the notify bell to keep up on the psychology talk and pop culture. But as I was saying, though instinct drives a lot of what we fear, we definitely can be taught to fear as well. Our instincts will react to things like pain, but we can be taught large bodies of water, for example, are just as scary. And it's even easier to create those fear if a traumatic event is coupled with it. For obvious reasons. Well, I hope they're obvious. This sucks because the fear tends to cascade when in the moment. So Pennywise plays with his food, okay, and he should in theory get better grub out of it because they're more fearful. If you're already primed for fear, that fear will be bigger and easier to seep in for you. An example would be, let's say you are afraid of, I don't know, clown seems to be a good example for this episode. When we're talking about it, that's a start, okay? But think about you hearing maybe circus music, or maybe an over-the-top laugh, or maybe perhaps a honking of an old-timey horn. And then BAM! A clown is right there. You will react more fearful if you're afraid of clowns, but that will even be a heightened level of reaction if all those things I mentioned happened before because you were primed for it. Now, here's the bad news. When the danger isn't easily perceived or it's just not real, you tend to react very cowardly. I can't tell you how often that I scream like a girl or jump 10 feet in the air due to a silly fear response when I didn't know what was going on. However, when the threat is very real and it's right on top of you, you will react in a very different ways. Pennywise's fatal flaw is that a lot of his tactics that he creates are things that have a form and are an immediate threat. This invokes courage in most people. People tend to invoke frenzy over fleeing in these situations. Pennywise is most likely to get battery acid to the face versus paralysis or a person fleeing because of this. Then again, he's pretty much an immortal creature, so that frenzy may be just a different type of playing with his food. So who knows? It could be intentional. Maybe he likes a little fight in his food. But like I said, this is all fear. Pennywise is eating at the Fear Kitties table when there is a whole phobia buffet waiting for him, which is kind of a bad analogy because he kind of wants to eat at the kitties table, or at least what he wants to eat sits at the kitties table. So what I'm really trying to get at here is that the ability to get so much more of his victims is possible for him. Don't settle for fear food when you can get the ability to have a 5-course phobia meal out of it. So what is phobia? By definition, phobia is a persistent, extreme, and unreasonable fear of a particular object, activity, or situation. These words really start driving home the difference between phobia and fear. Fear, it's normal, it's common, it happens, it's gone. Phobias, persistent, extreme, unreasonable. A phobia is a fear that is cranked up to 11 that never goes away. In the presence of a phobia, it's not just the increase of a heartbeat or a burst of adrenaline, but it's actually extreme panic that sets in, and individuals with phobias are always primed for it. So if Pennywise feeds on fear, imagine the smorgasbord that he would have if he used the powers to cultivate simple fears into extreme phobias. And how the hell did I be able to do smorgasbord on one take, but I can't say the word fear and feel at the same time? Moving on. As I was making this episode, I kept looking for a reason why Pennywise wouldn't want to do something like that, but everything involving phobias I read, I really can't figure out why he wouldn't. With phobias, fight is rarely a choice in your brain, so maybe it's just the fact, like I said, he maybe wants some fight in his food, but that's really it. In fact, even thinking you may be in the presence of your phobia, your body may tremble and the desire to get away is so overwhelming that you may just freeze in place even though it's not in your best interest to. Needless to say, the desire to leave a place where you think your phobia may occur becomes the absolute priority. Scratch that. It's not a priority. It is an absolute necessity. You need to do that. That's how intense phobias can be. Pennywise has shown that he likes to play with his victims. Imagine the fun he could have and the better meal that would be available for him if someone is so overwhelmed by their fear that even the thought of what that fear could do, or even just the thought of the fear itself, could create a mass panic in someone. And that is the defining thing about phobias. It takes over your entire life. In most cases of phobias, you have to completely adjust your life around it just to avoid the thought of possibly being confronted by it. To really give you an idea, I pulled some extreme cases, and here are some examples of honest-to-God phobias. A person maps out everywhere they drive because they are too afraid to turn left in their car. A person requires 2 family members to accompany them to, say, like a park because they're afraid a bird might attack them. A salesperson who cannot write order forms in front of customers. And why do you choose to be a salesman? I don't know. A person cannot leave their house because they are terrified of getting wet in the rain, even on a sunny day. That person, by the way, lives in Southern California. Those are very unique and very extreme examples, but you can see that fear is one thing, but phobias are a whole new level of trouble. It is totally normal and expected to feel some reaction to situations that might be dangerous, or at least thought of. It's perfectly normal and understandable to feel something and have some reaction, which is fear, to thoughts of danger. Phobias, however, are so irrational and so deep in someone's brain that normal and healthy fear would be a blessing. Pennywise could use this for sure. He could simply appear as a bird, sure, but he's clever enough to think of something like appearing as a family member of the person who is afraid of the birds, and then when they walk to the park, disappear on them. This would not be a quick fear. It'd be one that clings to you, and it would just pretty much wrap itself around you, and it would never leave. Pennywise could slowly go in for the kill and finish you off at the highest levels of fear you could possibly feel before having a heart attack. So what actually directly causes a phobia is generally unknown. We do know there are a few factors, the obvious one being a traumatic event is one, as well as if a family member has a phobia, there is a chance of a family member having the same phobia as well. Age also plays a role. The younger you are, the higher the chances you have developing a phobia, and the older you are, obviously diminishes those chances. It is very unusual for someone the age of 30 or over to develop a phobia. So simply put, little children are most susceptible to phobias, but teens still are pretty high up there. It wouldn't take a lot of effort to build on the fears until Pennywise could turn those fears into phobias on a massive level to his favorite food source, which is children and, of course, teenagers as well. So what's the chances kids Pennywise terrorize already have a phobia? About 10%, as 10% of the people in the world have a phobia. Now really think about that for a second. 1 out of 10 people you know have a phobia that disrupts their lives to some degree. A lot of individuals with phobias can develop something called complex phobias as well, which is multiple phobias all connected together. A phobia of germs, for example, could turn into a phobia of, say, the fear of hospitals, as well as that cascading into a fear of doctors in general. If Pennywise wanted to, he wouldn't be feeding on a single phobia from someone, but he could turn that into many forms of phobias in the same person with relative ease. In theory, if fear is something that really is what he's feeding on, not necessarily the actual human remains themselves, he can turn one person into a multiple course meal. So, speaking of multiple victims as well, let's talk about how many kids Pennywise eats. Now the funny thing is, Pennywise actually doesn't kill that many people in the movie. 3 kids on screen. I actually thought it was kind of ironic that other factors in the movie kill more things than Pennywise did directly. By my count, it was 2 kids, 2 adults, and 2 sheep. So as the meat of the movie is 6 to 7 months in, we know he's definitely feeding on other kids in that time. Cool shoes, by the way, Betty Ripson. Betty Ripson, back at it again with the white bands. So, sorry. Sorry. It's just sorry to everybody.
Damn, Daniel.
Damn, Ripson, back out again with the white vans. So by the statistics, at least one of those kids will have a phobia, or at least close to it. Most likely more than one kid, because all those kids that were floating around, some of those, if not all of them, could have been in that 6 to 7 months time. So this percentage is also seen very, very high in the Losers Club. Really, all of them are having some form of anxiety of something, if not on the verge of having a phobia, if they already don't have a phobia flat out. So why doesn't Pennywise cultivate that fear into phobias before eating? The more I was looking at it, maybe he does. Some deaths are quick and they happen the second Pennywise gets the chance to kill a victim. The Loser Club, however, were tortured by the dancing clown. He constantly harassed them without going in for the kill. What I'm saying is, I think Pennywise actually knows the difference between fear and phobias. He snacks on some children to tide them over until the main course is ready, which in this case would be the Loser Club. They seem to be the best choice to cultivate too, as I pointed out, most of them have extreme anxiety and phobias over something. Unfortunately, Pennywise did choose poorly. Or rather, he chewed poorly, wink again. So this will be a spoiler to some degree in Chapter 2 of It, if they do decide to use this in the movie. The movie hasn't come out as the making of this video, so we just don't know. But in theory, the Loser Club defeats Pennywise for the final time. So he may have cultivated those phobias and may have had a good course, but there's the risk involved that he'll soon find out. Or may find out? I don't know. I'm trying to spoiler something that I didn't spoil because I haven't seen it yet. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out together. With all that said, want to hear some weird phobias? I'm assuming you do because at least I'm sure half of you, that's the reason why you're here. Am I right? For the rest of you that would be considered to have weird phobias, here's your warning now because here they come. And I'm going to do it all correctly in one take, no edits required. Trypophobia, the phobia of closely packed holes. Xanthophobia, the fear of the color yellow. Somnophobia, the fear of falling asleep. Turophobia, the fear of cheese. They're afraid of me. Geniophobia, the fear of chins. If there is not a picture of Bruce Campbell up right now, you're fired. Nomophobia, the fear of being without mobile phone coverage. Oh.
Phobias.
Papaphobia, the fear of the Pope. Globophobia, the fear of balloons. For some reason, I can't get this word, and it's
Coulrophobia.
Coulrophobia? Coulrophobia, the fear of clowns. I needed help with the editor on that one. I mean, no, I didn't. Jellyophobia, the fear of laughter. This is gonna be a team effort for this one. I'm serious, come over here. Say this word.
Triskaidekaphobia.
Was that close enough to the mic? Triskaidekaphobia. There we go. Team effort, good job.
Triskaidekaphobia.
The fear of the number 13. Nailed it. Optophobia, the fear of opening one's eyes. Hellaphobia, the fear of being awesome. No, it's hellaphobia, the fear of sunlight. Every goth out there has that one.
Diapnophobia.
The fear of dinner conversations. I wrote these down, I didn't actually hear them.
Diapnophobia.
Yeah, we got it the first time.
Diapnophobia.
Dick. And finally, thanatophobia, the fear of death or dying. That one I can do. Oh, there's another one. Shit. Oh my god, I know. Arachnophobia is the fear of spiders. I went for the really obscure ones, and apparently the really obscure ones has super long, really confusing names. Good on me.
Arachibutyrophobia.
The fear of peanut butter sticking to the roof of your mouth.
Arachibutyrophobia.
The fear of peanut butter sticking to the roof of your mouth. You want a third one, just in case? I was gonna say. I was waiting for it.
Arachibutyrophobia.
The fear of peanut butter sticking to the roof of your mouth. See? We totally nailed it with no edits. So there you have it, the fear and phobias in the form of feeding habits through Pennywise. We all feel fear, and there's totally nothing wrong with that. In fact, fearing nothing is what's crazier. Shut up, Daredevil. If you're dealing with a phobia, remember that you're not alone out there. I mean, look at the ones that we tried to name off, and there's a reason why they have names. We just mentioned some of the really unusual ones, so no matter what you're afraid of, remember that they do have names because other people have phobias out there with that. The treatment is down to a science, both using the figurative statement and I mean that literally, so get the help you feel like you need. I love Stephen King's work and I really enjoyed Chapter 1. Here's hoping Chapter 2 is just as good. After you guys see it, come back and tell me what your thoughts are about the movie in the comments below, or even tell me what you thought about my musings on Pennywise. I would love to hear from you guys. If you don't, that's fine too. May the fears in your life be ones that are experienced as a rush of fun and not the threat of a dangerous circus performer. Until next time, see you then. I'm hearing noises everywhere, so I'm like, ooh, what's that? Ooh, what's that? Ooh, hi, hello, how you doing? What you do? You'll float too, what?